steps. And first, they have to deal with the issue of what they call a Blakely hearing, which is going to be done first on paper, which will be about aggravating and mitigating factors. Each side will present their side on paper. Then the probation department does a pre-sentence investigation. They will file a report. The lawyers on each side will be able to accept or object to items in that report. And finally, the sentencing will occur in approximately 8 weeks, according to the judge.
All right, Ricky Kleeman, thank you. Gail?
I spoke as one of the people.
Thank you very much, Nora. Let's bring in racial justice expert and former president of the NAACP Minneapolis chapter, Nakima Levy-Armstrong. We're so glad that you're here today because you know this case very, very well. What's your reaction to found guilty on all 3 charges?
I am so relieved, Gail, and I know that our community is relieved, as well as people around the nation and around the world. The Black community has been on edge since this trial began. And now it feels like we can breathe.
Did you think this was possible?
I thought that it was possible because of the power of God. That's the only way that it's possible in such a broken system.
Well, you know, I have to say this has been quite a journey for you personally. I remember when Chief Arredondo testified at the trial that he got a call from a community member about, did you see what your police officer did to that man? Who was that community member?
I was.
That was you?
Yes.
So he heard about it for the first time from your phone call?
Yes, and I heard about it from a woman named Ashley Canones, whose husband had been killed by the police. She Facebook, you know, she tagged me on Facebook to say that MPD had choked someone and choked the life out of them. And I looked online, I didn't see anything, so I called the chief, and he said, no, someone died in custody as a result of a medical issue.
That's what the chief believed.
That's what the chief believed. That's what his officers had told him. And I said, did you see video of the incident?
He had not seen the video.
He said, I passed it along to the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. I said, you need to see some video immediately.
Because in the beginning, there were no charges against Derek Chauvin, right?
Right.
None.
Guilty on all
There were no charges initially, and so what happened
Initially,
after that,
there were
the
no
chief
charges
saw the
for
bystander
killing
video
George
that we all
Floyd.
watched,
Initially, there were no
that
charges
Darnella Frazier captured.
killing
And then
George Floyd.
he
The
met
telephone
with
call
African-American city leaders
what is your
at 7 a.m.
department
the
doing?
next morning at City Hall, along with the mayor, the FBI, and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
What,
We
no
demanded that
charges?
all 4 officers be fired.
No charges
The
at all?
chief took a few hours to think about it, and then he held a press conference saying he would fire those officers. I was one of the people who spoke at that press conference. I applauded the chief and said, now we need charges against all 4 officers, and the Black community affirmed that statement. And then we began to apply pressure.
So what does it say to you, Nakima, about the power of videotape and the power of
The
speech?
power of videotape.
I think without Darnella Frazier's video, this wouldn't have happened. MPD would have been able to sweep the murder of George Floyd under the rug. Because you can manipulate body camera footage in terms of how it's analyzed, but we know what we saw on that bystander video that made a huge difference. And in terms of the power of the people, we have to understand that we can change the world. Even if it is a small group, there was a small group of us constantly applying the pressure. We pressured the governor to use his executive authority to remove the case from the Hennepin County attorney, who traditionally protects killer cops, and he played it into the hands of the Attorney General, Pete Ellison, who then was able to elevate the charges from 3rd-degree murder to 2nd-degree murder.
Because that wasn't even a charge in the beginning.
No, the Hennepin County attorney tried to secretly agree to a 3rd-degree murder plea agreement with Derek Chauvin for him to serve 10 years in federal prison. But Attorney General William Barr said no, because he thought that the community would feel that the case was being swept under the rug.
What does this mean for Black people in the state? Listen, even the governor and both the governor and the lieutenant governor have come out and said, I think, some pretty eye-opening statements about how people of color are treated in this state.
I'm glad that they're saying that. Now they need to do something about it. We have repeatedly gone to Governor Tim Walz to ask him to be a champion for police reform bills. We have 8 bills currently pending at the legislature, and there has been little to no movement on those bills. He has not shown any
shown that 80% of the jurors make up their mind after the opening arguments. I don't know if that's true. The closing arguments were also very strong. What can you tell us about the prosecutors in this case and what you think about the job that they did?
Well, one of the things that's interesting about this case is that once it was transferred from the Hennepin County Attorney to the Attorney General's office, he had the power to appoint special prosecutors. So the prosecution team that we witnessed, that stellar prosecution team, are some of the best attorneys from Minnesota and around the country. That wouldn't have happened if the case had stayed with the Hennepin County Attorney. The attorney that gave the opening statement, Jerry Blackwell, is a well-known civil litigator who has his own firm. He used to be the president of our Black Bar Association, and he was phenomenal all throughout the trial.
His close was very strong as well.
Absolutely, and I felt that he took this case personally in terms of standing up for the dignity of George Floyd and for his humanity and communicating that to those 12 jurors.
Yeah, there was one line, he had several actually, but there was one line that stood out to me when he said, you know, at one point the defense tried to say that George Floyd died because of an enlarged heart. He said, no, George Floyd didn't die because of an enlarged heart. He died because
his heart was too small.
Because Derek Chauvin's heart is too small.
Yes.
Did that stand out to you? What is that? The L, the subway? What is that?
Our Metro Transit train.
Yeah. Every time it goes by, I'm like, what is happening? But
yeah,
that happens all the time.
That runs through here.
Okay.
But I thought that Jerry Blackwell did an outstanding job of using catchphrases that would stick in the minds of the jury, as well as the global audience that had an opportunity to watch this trial. This was a rare opportunity to see a prosecution of a police officer, which we know they rarely happen anyway in the United States.
The other thing that I thought was made in the prosecution closing, where he said, this case is Minnesota against, it's not against Minnesota and the police department. He said, this case is against Minnesota and Derek Chauvin. We think that a police officer policing is a noble profession, and we are not trying to indict the police. That this isn't about bad policing. This is about good. This is not anti-police. This is very pro-police. Do you think that was a very important point to make, and do you agree with that?
I don't think it was a factual point.
You don't.
But I think it was strategic on his part.
What was not factual?
The fact that policing in Minnesota and across America was not on trial. It was very much so on trial. Derek Chauvin is not just a bad apple. He is a part of a rotten system. And he is the fruit that has been produced from that rotten system. If Derek Chauvin had been held accountable earlier in his career, when he accumulated over a dozen complaints against him and had been involved in other deadly force incidences.
None of which the jury heard, by the way.
Exactly. George Floyd might still be alive today. And so the system failed George Floyd and so many other victims. So they are very much responsible for what happened. Although, of course, they had members of the jury who had close ties to law enforcement. They have members of the jury who perhaps have not had negative experiences with law enforcement. And so they wanted to give those jurors an out to say, you can hold this one cop accountable and still trust in policing. Now, for many black people, we scoffed at that notion, but I understood strategically why they did it, and clearly it was effective.
It also seems to me that